Hi, it's Tom B of Old Tom's Wormery. Today is day 102 of my 2x2 continuous flow through worm bin. Today is just a maintenance day. I'm going to check the top. We'll see how the worms are doing. I like how they're thickening up, and we'll see if it needs some more bedding, possibly, and some food. One thing I am switching to now is, because it's been so wet, I'm going to cut back on the wet fruit and vegetable feeding. And I'm going to start with my Worm Chow. The Worm Chow also makes the worms happy, doesn't tend to heat up the bin very much, and we'll talk a little bit, show you a sample, and tell you about the Worm Chow. So let's take a look. Camera coming down. All right, I've got worms on the sides a little bit. I've got worms packing it up on the blanket. Let's get them out of the way as well as we can. Set them aside, packing up a bit on the blanket. Set those safely aside. So now you can see we've had a nice flow of worms here. This was the side over here which had the food, and so there's plenty of worms in there, all starting to get to size. Down the middle I don't have as many, and so on the sides I tend to get more. I think they like the coolness of the wall. So to get this area here, which didn't have the piled on fruit, to draw more worms and to keep them happy, keep them eating, I will be adding some Worm Chow. Worm Chow is just a mix of ground grains, and in my case, ground grains, dry coffee grounds, some eggshell, and then sometimes some grit. I use Azomite as my grit. The eggshell has got a couple of things. One, it provides some grit for the worms for in their gizzards so they can chew their food, but also it adds some pH control. Grain has a habit of causing the pH to change in your bed, and so adding the eggshell with the calcium carbonate helps to buffer that and keep the bed just sweet enough for the worms. So it looks like, setting this aside a little bit, it looks like the food has been eaten fairly well. So what I'm going to do is toss the bed. I'll put fruit and vegetable food on this side this time and cover the rest of it with this Worm Chow. You see about how much I'm targeting to put on this bed. It can take more, and that's something each grower has to decide and keep an eye on. When you add Worm Chow, just like when you're adding fruit and veg, you watch to see, does the bed start to hot compost? And that's how you decide how much Worm Chow you can add at any one time. The other thing you check is how wet is your bedding. Because the Worm Chow goes on dry, it needs to soak the moisture out of the bed. Sometimes the bed surface gets very dry. Here in California, it gets dry in the summer. So when I sprinkle on the Worm Chow, I then give it a spritz of water to wet the chow itself without adding a whole lot of water to the bed. That's what's going on today. It's just a maintenance day. I'll see you on Monday.